2,000 years later, we're still spending a lot of time, but fighting with each other, while the Lord Jesus is to himself. And so that we're involved. And as you say correctly, I think all those figures represent us. How do we interpret Jesus? How do we take him in? What does he mean for us? And our backstories matter. So when people finally meet the Lord Jesus, they're coming out of their very rich, complex, struggling, history. So I think it was good the way they set it up. It's a bit like, Tolkien with the Lord of the Rings, beginning with 100 pages of Bilbo Baggins' birthday party, remember? And people say, there's this rollicking adventure story, and when is it going to get started? But what Tolkien was doing was setting up the world that he wanted you to inhabit. So in a similar way, I thought, it was setting up, we want to see how these people, like Nicodemus, whom I find very moving, that actor, that has been around for a long time. What an expressive face, and obviously he's a very skilled actor, but you sense, okay, this guy's got quite a story. And then to the arc of Nicodemus, in the course of the Gospels. So I think that's a very rich part of The Chosen. It doesn't just hyper-stress, the spotlight always on Jesus. But do you remember the scene, by the way? This one is, I say to my own condemnation, the wonderful one, again, you're only at the very end. The whole, not that
I sense a theme here. I sense a theme here.
Do you remember it's the
I love the stuff where you're not in it. But
the best, the disciples are fighting in the whole episode. Remember that? They're bickering and arguing and who's most important and what about this, and they're fighting and then at the very end, Jesus, having spent the entire episode healing hundreds of people, exhausted, comes staggering across the scene, goes into his tent, and his mother cares for him, right? But you barely say a word, I think. But I remember when I watched that, here I am, I'm a successor of the apostles, right? And I thought, there we are, 2,000 years later, we're still spending a lot of time, but fighting with each other, while the Lord Jesus is doing his work, So that to me was a very powerful episode, actually.
Yeah, that was, for me, I think I just say, good night. That's my only line in the whole episode. And it says everything. And when you had mentioned that to me, that note, like that's the state of the church, I said, you know what? Yeah, I guess it is.
Bishop, after hearing one of your sermons or one of your talks, people are always left with all of these myriad references you've made to books and poems and movies and art, and I bet